Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight, spending some time with us. My name's Justin Paglino, and I'm a co-chair of the Green Party of Connecticut, and I'm also a U.S. Senate candidate, and I'm also a co-field director for the Jill Stein campaign nationally. And, it's been an honor of mine to have been working for the Jill Stein campaign for the past year as a field director and had to have seen all the enthusiasm that has been building up and for the campaign over the course of the year. A lot of this enthusiasm has been motivated, of course, by the brutal violence and starvation against the people of Gaza committed by the state of Israel that's been ongoing for the past year. We've seen increasingly recognition of the illegality of these actions, the brutality, and I would add the futility. Because we're never going to, violence against the Palestinian people does not accomplish what we need to accomplish. Obviously, it's not what we need to be doing is the opposite. We need to be restoring the rights to the Palestinian people who were violently exiled from their homes 76 years ago. And Israel is an ethnic colonial state that was established via violence and has maintained itself via violence and is maintaining an apartheid. And until we have democracy and justice for all the people in that region, we're not going to have peace. And that's my contention. I think our schedule was going to be to let Jill go first. That was my introductions here. Basically, what we have tonight is we have the Green Party of Connecticut. We also have Justice for Palestine in Congress, which is an organization that involves Ahmad Darwish, who's our candidate in the 5th District, and also Omar, who has helped organize and helped us find even more candidates to run on ballots with an anti-genocide position in the state of Connecticut, federal candidates, so that we now have anti-genocide options on everyone's ballot in the state of Connecticut, thanks to everyone who helped us get Jill Stein on the ballot here in Connecticut. That wasn't an easy thing to do, and also myself on the ballot for U.S. Senate. In a fair system, I would have been invited to the Senate debate that's happening tomorrow night, but unfortunately, I was not invited. But we have Mary Sanders here, who is also on the ballot in the 1st Congressional District for U.S. Congress, Ahmad Darwish in the 5th Congressional District for U.S. Congress. Shahd Omar is in our candidate, a write-in candidate that we've nominated in the 3rd Congressional District, and Jeff Russell is our endorsed candidate in the 2nd Congressional District. So in every ballot in the state of Connecticut, people can cast 3 votes against genocide, 1 on the presidential ticket, 1 for Senate, and 1 for U.S. House. We have additional down ballot candidates for state Senate and so on that we also ask folks to support. I think that because we are delayed waiting for Jill, I might ask one of our candidates to speak. I think we only have about 5 minutes for each candidate to speak. So we should get started. Ahmad, you're up the top left of my screen. Would you like to kick things off and talk about your race?
I would like to introduce myself first. Most people don't know me over here, I think. So my name is Ahmad Darwish. I am originally from Palestine. from northern part of Palestine, a city called Akka. The Zionists like to make the changes of names to strip us from our originality, and they named the city Echo, and we refuse that. We keep the same name as we were told from history. The name is Akka. And we are from the suburb of that city, from a town called Birwa, which they also changed the name of it because it became a Zionist settlement, and they called it Ehud, I think. That's how, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But we also refuse to call it the new name. We keep the name as Berwa, where we are originally from. Most of the family still in northern Palestine. My father, part of the family, went to West Bank, a city called Nablus, and they're still there. We still have a lot of family in the West Bank, but the majority in northern Palestine, the city of Akka and its suburbs. We do have family, and my mother's side of the family went to migrated by force to Lebanon because Akka is by borders of southern Lebanon, and so I have a lot of family right now, currently in southern Lebanon, and we did lose a couple in the war that's happening in southern Lebanon. Two cousins we lost. Um, I am running. I was hoping to be in the ballot. We did not make it because I started late, but we got the permission. I applied to be a write-in candidate, and I am a write-in candidate for District 5. Um, we'd like to educate people about the history of Palestine and who betrayed Palestine from the superpowers and from their Arab brothers who betrayed them. And this is why when I didn't see a lot of youth putting their, except for Shahd, who I support totally, but other youth that I was hoping to step up to the plate and elect themselves to represent us, I decided to run and explain and be the voice for the victims who have no voices, and strip the countries, or especially the 5 permanent members of the United Nations, who they call themselves civilized countries, and there is nothing civilized about them. Watching live the slaughter that is going on right now in northern Gaza, and they are not doing anything about it. And that Netanyahu is getting away with everything because nobody is punishing him or making him feel guilty or making him stop. So we are here to make people aware of these atrocities that's happening and to remind them of the plight of the Palestinian people. So I thank you for being here, and I thank everyone who is supporting me in District 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmad. We're very, very happy to have you representing us as a Green Party candidate in the 5th Congressional District. And thank you so much for running and giving people the chance to vote against genocide, as so many people are wanting and needing to do after the past year. This is an important service that you're providing to the voters in your district to enable them to do that. Let's see who we have. So many people here. Thank you all for joining us. I don't know that we have Jill quite yet. Let's see. Maybe we can hear from Mary Lou in the 1st Congressional District, the Hartford area.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm not on camera throughout the whole thing because my battery will die. So briefly, I've been living in Hartford for 30 years. But I'm raised in New Britain, so I didn't transplant very far. I've been an activist far longer than I've been involved in politics. I learned about this particular issue with Palestine and Israel probably 20, 25 years ago, thanks to Stan Heller and his traveling presentation. Another peace activist brought me to one of Stan's presentations in New Britain, where I was born and raised and always worked. And I was appalled then, and now it's unbelievable. I'm sick to my stomach with what's going on. I'm afraid we're all becoming numb. I mean, after October 7th, I cried for a couple of weeks watching the news, and then I got angry, and then I was in the streets at all the rallies protesting, either in Hartford or New Haven. And I decided to join the Greens in 2016, I'm sorry. When I realized that the Democrats do not hold fair primaries, and their total mission is this, full spectrum domination and building the war machine and nuclear weapons. So I joined the Greens, and I've run for office for five different races, including Hartford City Council, State Senate, and this is my second run for Congress. And this was the first year I got invited to debate. So I had a fairly decent debate last week with the other two candidates, and made my case for the Greens. And hopefully I will, well, 2 years ago I was going to hold the ballot line, but I was disappointed in the percentage that I got. So hopefully this year we can show a little more solidarity and loss of fear of their dirty politics, this fear mongering, which party is worse, and voting for the lesser of two evils. And hopefully people will show the Democrats and the Republicans that it's no longer going to be business as usual, that third parties are gaining strength, and that if they don't listen to the majority of the population that wants to put an end to this war and stop sending weapons, not only there, but around the world. We have military bases in 800 places and all kind of stuff going on. So when I spoke the other day, it was a lot of emphasis on cutting the military budget, reining in the federal debt, taking care of people, universal health care, climate crisis, and all the other green issues. But primarily this year, what's driving us is ending this genocide and standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And yeah, this is our year. I have a good feeling that we're going to do a good showing. My first campaign as a write-in candidate, I got 12 votes. So that was about 6 years ago. I did not let that discourage me. So I encourage all the write-in candidates, and I'll happily, I've been sharing information on that. And if anything else you want me to post, I'm administrator on 4 different pages, so I'm happy to share your material. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Thank you for running as a candidate, which you have done before, and thank you for keeping on running. It reminds me of something someone, pointed out. Oh, well, why do you, I've run for Congress a couple of times. I ran in 2020, 2022. Now I'm running for Senate. People ask, well, you didn't get a lot of votes, before, so why don't you just give up? My answer is, why would I give up fighting for what I believe in? Why would I ever quit, like, trying to make the world a better place? Why would I even consider that? Like, I can't afford to be discouraged and give up. Like, that's not an option. So thank you, Mary Lou, for that persistence. And it's great to have you in the Green Party of Connecticut. And thank you for being that candidate in the 1st Congressional District. We're all very proud of you. I'm wondering if Jill is here yet, but there's so many people now that I can't even tell. Jill, if you're here, say hello. If not, we can move on to another candidate. Let's go with Shahd Omar. Shahd, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody, please?
Hi, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shahd Omar. I'm a Connecticut native. I was born and raised here. I grew up here my entire life. I am Palestinian and Jordanian. My mother's side of the family is Palestinian, but with everything going on over there, they were displaced and moved to Jordan, and that's where they grew up. My father's side of the family still lives in the West Bank. They live in a small town. It's near Ramallah. It's called Bak el Sharqiyya. I'm not sure what like the translation of it would be in English. I don't know if Ahmad can add to that. Um, so I want to comment on two things. I know a lot of people are concerned about my age because I'm 23. So I know I've heard people saying like I'm inexperienced or I'm young, but I honestly don't see that as what I see it as one of my greatest weaknesses, shall I say, because my age leaves so much room for me to grow and learn more things. And I've been attending so many community events and being able to talk with people amongst the community, I'm able to actually learn more about issues that people are facing. And so when people say that we're one issue candidates because we support the Palestinian cause, that's not true because while like this is one thing that we're speaking on now, it's not the only thing that we like want to address for the citizens. So for my campaign, I've been like pretty hands-on. And like I said, like I've been going out, meeting with people and talking with them. And so for me, like I'm really for the people. I like want to know what people's experiences are so that I can know how to better address them and actually be able to help the citizens. And so I have I can drop how to reach out to me in the chat. If anybody has any further questions, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm open, I'm all ears. I love listening and having a good conversation with people and actually being able to discuss things with you guys. Thank you.
Wonderful shot. Thank you so much. You know, I'm so proud of what we're doing here in the Green Party of Connecticut, that we have people with direct ties and history and family to Palestine in this year's election. I mean, I think that's very meaningful, and I really appreciate people standing up, such as yourself, Shahd, and Ahmad, and running for office to directly represent the interests of the people you have a close connection with. You know, this is what democracy is supposed to be, and this isn't just people over there. This is people here that are affected, and so many of the people here know that all too well. I don't have to tell anyone that, but it's nice to see the direct representation of the power that people in America have here to try and change policy. The people that are here to step up and run for office and get the votes against genocide, because we are the power that is supporting Israel and giving it a blank check, right? We are the ones who are supplying 70% of the bombs and refuse to impose any restrictions, any sanctions, any arms embargo, use any of our leverage that we have been refusing to use. So taking up too much time talking, but that's my long way of saying thank you. I'm very happy that you're stepping up and doing this, and thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Now do we have Jill yet? Is she here? She may be running late. So, and a reminder to all the candidates to please put your emails in the chat so people know how to reach out to you. Any other information you would like people to know about your campaign, website or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or whatever you would like to share with all the audience folks here tonight about how to get in touch with you, how to follow you on social media, how to learn more about you, please go ahead and share that in the chat. Yes, Shahd is running against Rosa DeLauro in CD3, and as I have done in the past, so I'm proud to have been succeeded by Shahd. Why don't we have other candidates. Why don't we hear from Jeff Russell? Jeff, would you like to speak about your candidacy?
Well, first of all, Justin, you better do better than my best run for Senate as a Green candidate. You know, I'm challenging you on that. I've been at this a long time. I tried to get the Green Party to support the notion of a Senate race in the 20th century. Just having a Green voice in the conversation is, in my opinion, a valuable thing. And as far as the mess in Greater Palestine, there's so much distortion that's hitting us, that's out there, that I think needs to be challenged. I mean, Hamas is accused of taking hostages, but the Israelis have been arresting Palestinian men, women, and children and holding them without charge and without trial for ages. What is that if it's not hostage taking? And I cringe anytime anyone says, you know, this group or that group or the other group started this conflict. Excuse me. These are things that are retaliations for retaliations for retaliations that go back to the 19th century. I think one of the things that would really help in this conflict is to tell the truth about it. And one of the unpleasant truths is that Benjamin Netanyahu is a flagrant fascist. And this is very much a fascist war that he is waging on people who have no air force, no air defense, and nothing in the way of bomb shelters to speak of. And yet air attacks are continuing on hospitals, ambulances. This is just more crime against humanity, and shining a light on it is absolutely necessary. And I hear our Green voices doing that. I've been hearing about this conflict for a long time, and it's way past time that something productive is done to it. And I see Jill is here now. So hello, Jill, and I'll let Justin turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'll introduce you, Jill. And thank you, Jeffrey, for running for Congress there in the 2nd Congressional District. And Jill, I'll just orient you to who else is here since you missed the introductions. But if you can see Ahmad Darwish, raise your hand, say hello. Ahmad Darwish is our write-in candidate for U.S. Congress in the 5th Congressional District. He is, Ahmad, you are Palestinian American, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes, he's a Palestinian American. And we have Shahd Omar, who's also a Palestinian American. Say hi, Shahd.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Shahd. Great to meet you, and Ahmed, you too.
It's great
Yeah,
to meet
Thank
you
you.
as well. Thank you.
Shahd is also a Palestinian American, and she's our write-in candidate in the 3rd Congressional District for U.S. House. And then we have Mary Sanders, who is on the ballot thanks to her previous run. Say hi, Mary. Mary's been with the Green Party a while, and she's our candidate in the 1st Congressional District.
Yeah, I joined the Greens in 2016, and I ran 2 years ago, but I'm really thrilled to be on the ballot along with you and Justin this year.
So exciting. Congratulations.
And then Jeff Russell, hi Jeff, who just was speaking when you came in, is our write-in candidate in the 2nd Congressional District. So, and we have also Omar Antar. Do you want to say hi, Omar?
Hi.
I just want to introduce Omar to you, Jill, because Omar has done a lot to help bring this all together and create this slate. And so he's been behind the scenes very instrumental. And I think Shafi's here too. Shafi, are you here? I think I saw him. Anyway, Shafi's a volunteer who did a lot of work helping get you and
here.
me. Shafi,
Yes, sir.
say hi.
Hey, hi, Jill.
Hi, Shafi. Good to meet
I
you.
met Jill actually in Connecticut actually in a fundraising in Orange. You came to Dr. Patel's house for that, and I met you there.
Okay.
Terrific.
Yeah, that was back in May, and that's when a lot of things kicked off here in Connecticut. That really helped us start to form more and more connections in the Muslim and Arab American community here in Connecticut. And many of the people, and I'm sure leaving people out, but those are some of the people who've been very helpful getting us on the ballot and, bringing this event together. And as you can see, we have a lot of people here interested and to hear from you. And we've heard from all the other candidates. So I don't know how much of an introduction you really need, Jill. We all know that you are a wonderful person and a greatly needed candidate at this moment in history. And we're also happy that you are there on the ballot to represent the values we share so that we can vote for them. So I won't make it any more long-winded than that. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you to all the candidates and everyone turning out tonight. We really are in this historic moment right now, and we have more momentum and more support than I ever would have dreamed in my whole life, having been sort of dedicated to the agenda of people, planet, and peace over profit since I first got tricked into running for office myself back in the year 2002, running for governor as a very frustrated activist, seeing that, well, in our state, the Progressive Democratic Party had just repealed campaign finance reform. We had passed clean elections, the system of public funding as a voter referendum because our progressive Democratic legislature wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And we had just passed it by a 2-to-1 margin, overwhelmingly. This had followed on the heels of a Medicare for all, so-called single payer at the time, referendum that was just barely beaten back by a huge influx of money, a torrent of money from big pharma and the usual suspects. And we were beaten back, outfunded 50-to-1, beaten back by a percentage point, basically. And then we decided, well, let's get the money out of politics. And we passed that referendum overwhelmingly. We did everything right. And still, the Democratic Party repealed it on a voice vote in the legislature, which said to me, that party is beyond redemption. And that was back in the year 2000, and it was really in 2000 basically when they repealed it. And ever since, things just continue to confirm that that's true, that the Democratic Party is beyond redemption, as are the Republicans, of course. So so many of us have been working so hard for so long, and now suddenly we are just witnessing this incredible surge, this tsunami, really, of support. And a big shout out to the Muslim American community and the Arab American community for standing up with the incredible courage that you have, and with your very clear moral compass that you share with us, that we need a world that puts people over profit and planet over profit and peace over profit. We need that world, and they're not going to give it to us for asking nicely. So many of us have been really informed by Frederick Douglass, who said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, it never will. So we are standing up to make that demand. And boy, is the empire nervous. I'm sure you are seeing it and feeling it. They are really coming down hard on us right now, accusing us. Let's see, today, most recently, they're trying to make it out like we're Trump supporters. We're basically closet Trump supporters is the reason that we're doing all of this. It's just, it's just like ridiculous. And, they take our statements out of context and try to distort them. We had 3 events yesterday, or was it 4? I can't even remember, in Phoenix, Arizona. We just had back-to-back events, and every one of them was standing room only and out the door. The turnout was just incredible. The turnout was diverse. The turnout is increasingly young, lots of students, people who are really inspired by the fight to stop genocide and the work that we've been doing together. And it's just so exciting to see it bringing all kinds of people into, into the battle and really owning this campaign. And by that, I mean all of us. I mean the agenda that we share. There are so many who are standing up now and saying that this isn't just for this election. This is for the long haul. People really understand that this is not only to stop genocide. It's not only to stop the flow of weapons and support to the apartheid and Zionist state of Israel. This is really to dismantle the empire. Israel was described by Ronald Reagan's Secretary of Defense as the unsinkable battleship for the U.S. in the Middle East. And it is that unsinkable battleship for the U.S. empire. And, controlling the oil supply. Why control the oil supply? Because the U.S., the basis of our foreign policy is called full spectrum dominance. We will be the dominant empire throughout the world, which Martin Luther King described as the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, and we still are. And this genocide that is just riveting and horrifying, and now we're looking at predictions that there will be extermination in North Gaza of tens of thousands of people are at risk for being killed in northern Gaza right now. The genocidal practices are also spreading to the West Bank. Lebanon is under attack. In like 2 weeks, over 2,000 people were basically murdered, and tens of thousands injured. And it doesn't stop there. Now there's talk about Israel attacking Syria and attempting to do regime change in Syria because of Syria's alleged support for Hezbollah. So, you have right now a whole lot of excuses that are being used to expand the Zionist state, which is what many people have seen in the cards for a long time. Certainly, Israel has been threatening Iran for years, if not decades, and the U.S. Much of the U.S. Military establishment, and the neocons have also, they're after Iran and just looking for an excuse. Israel is threatening to attack the nuclear facilities in Iran, which would be absolutely, like potentially the equivalent of a nuclear detonation. You don't want to go bombing a nuclear facility. It's like setting off a nuclear bomb. With the potential for the spread of radiation and huge explosions and all that. So just unbelievably dangerous, an act of war, an international war crime. The United Nations Secretary General has warned against it, and Russia, importantly, has taken a stand against this as well. Russia is unified in a military alliance with Iran. So Israel is not only playing with fire, Israel has been given the baton for the commander-in-chief. Bibi Netanyahu is our commander-in-chief and has been given basically a thumbs up to just go ahead, Bibi, do what you want to do, because the U.S. will not stop you and they will not, punish you. There will be no accountability whatsoever. You can do what you want and you will be rewarded. And in fact, the U.S. will just shower more billions of dollars, which is what the U.S. did most recently after the attack on Lebanon. The U.S., released another $8 billion worth of military aid, as if to say, you go get them, Israel. So Bibi Netanyahu is effectively our commander-in-chief, and the Harris-Biden administration have said that they will be there. And the two parties, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, they compete for who can pledge allegiance more to the state of Israel. And so there's absolutely no constraints on this expanding war, the potential to be dragged into not only a major regional war, which we effectively have in the works right now, but potentially a global war, because Russia, can readily be brought into this. China may also be brought into this and has expressed, sympathy with the genocide, and also with Russia having, needless to say that the U.S. has been driving Russia and China closer and closer together through our very hostile policies. We're facing the potential for nuclear war, not only in the Middle East, but also in Ukraine, which is turning out to be exactly what most of us said it would be, which is just a complete disaster for the people of Ukraine, with absolutely nothing to gain and everything to lose here, as well as the potential for nuclear war in China and Taiwan. And these are conflicts which have really been ginned up very much by aggressive and provocative positions and actions from the U.S. So, the bottom line here is just to say that we must free Palestine, and we must also free ourselves. In freeing Palestine, we have to break the bonds of empire. We have to break the empire which has created the disaster in Palestine, which, of which the genocide is really a microcosm of this empire. That foreign policy based on empire is also impoverishing us here at home. It's also a war on American workers, because spending the dollars that we're spending for the endless war machine, it's half of our congressional budget, depending on how you calculate it. It may be more like 60-some%. This is why we do not have the dollars that we need right here for the state of emergency that working people face in the desperate lack of health care, affordable, pharmaceuticals that we don't have, the housing crisis, with 1 out of every 2 Americans basically facing a severe housing crisis, effectively paying, 30 to 50% of our monthly income just to keep a roof over our heads. That's severely stressed. Americans are within 1 to 2 paychecks of evictions, and homelessness is skyrocketing. And then we have the climate crisis, to add on to that as well as the education crisis and the crisis of debt. So we don't need to belabor the details here. I think we hear enough about that all the time. I just want to really underscore for people how much people are ready to stand up in spite of this just, ridiculous, pathetic propaganda, this authoritarian heavy hand, which keeps coming down on us, blaming and shaming voters, blaming and shaming candidates for daring to stand up for what it is that the American people are actually desperate for. Just in like the last week, the Democrats were caught red-handed. Tavis Smiley did an expose on air. He blew the whistle on the DNC that had sent him smear questions for him to, be sure to use against me, and a long explanation of details, sort of gotcha details from their point of view. So they are manipulating the message. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody here. And of course, they're censoring the message madly, as we see, heads bashed in for students and protesters standing up for the values that we all share, standing up for our democracy, standing up for our right to protest, standing up for academic freedom. Zionism is not Judaism. Protesting and debating and objecting to Zionist genocide is not anti-Semitic, not in the least. As someone who was right there at Columbia University, right at the beginning of the protests, what were they doing? They were celebrating Passover. They were celebrating a Seder. There is not a shred of anti-Semitism that I have ever observed in any of this movement. And the team that we are running together as a Jewish American woman and a Black Muslim man, our team for president and vice president, just shouts that out to the world. This is not a religious conflict. Anti-Semitism has nothing to do with it, except for the accusations being made, which I find quite anti-Semitic, that there's anything that's anti-Jewish whatsoever in this anti-genocide movement. Saying that it is anti-Jewish to be anti-genocide, to my mind, is the biggest anti-Semitic smear that you can possibly imagine. And having grown up myself in the Jewish community after the Holocaust, when our community was asking the question, is there life after genocide? How do we ever restore faith in humanity? What we resolved and what I resolved, especially with my mother, who was the most just, distraught about the whole thing, what we resolved was that we will never let this happen again, not to anyone. And we held accountable not just the perpetrators of genocide, but those who are bystanders to genocide. So in this race, don't let anyone ever suggest that there is a lesser evil here, because we have two candidates, one committing genocide and the other one dedicated to it, calling for finishing the job. There is no lesser evil in this race. There is no lesser evil to look at the clampdown, the heavy hammer coming down on our civil liberties and our right to protest, and our right to freedom of speech and freedom of the press and academic freedom. That charge is being led by the Democratic Party. Where is it that the cop cities are being built? It is especially under Democratic municipal leadership. And the cop cities, they are proliferating like mad. Who's teaching the local cops these violent techniques? It's largely the Israeli occupation forces. So, it's clear there is no lesser evil we need to stand up and fight for the greater good, as we have always done as Greens. The desperation right now of the Democrats to try to smear us, we have the great honor of having been the recipients of the very first advertising campaign in a presidential race against us. And they're scared for good reason. They're scared because we are what people are actually clamoring for. They're scared because young people are beginning to discover our campaign. They're scared because when we went on the Breakfast Club, this major African-American kind of hip hop podcast, which is fabulous and which has huge reach, that virtually every comment among the 20,000 and more that continue to grow. Same thing on Democracy Now!, which has traditionally been the Democratic Party's stronghold, or whether you look at Breaking Points or The Hill Rising. Really across the board, when people discover our campaign, they're actually overjoyed. Our campaign and our shared agenda as Greens. So this is why the Democrats are scared and, understand this for what it is, which is really, they are terrified. They know their days are numbered. Their days, in fact, are numbered, because the American people are not only tired of genocide. This is a red line for 68% of Americans, actually, who want an immediate end. Over 60% of Americans who want a weapons boycott against Israel right now. Who thought we would ever see that in our lifetimes? It's absolutely incredible. But people understand that not only is this about genocide, but this is also about an attack on working Americans. The fact that we're funding genocide, not funding what we need to survive in this country, and that we are funding genocide and endangering all of us with the potential for nuclear war. So I don't want to take up too much time. I want to leave more time for these candidates here. And I just want to thank you all so very much for bringing this fight back to our communities, because this is where it's going to continue. And by the way, Frederick Douglass, said that power concedes nothing without a demand. What Alice Walker said is that the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. In this race, there are so many major groups that will stand up and vote for us if they hear about us. So pay no attention to that old white guy behind the curtain, the charlatan behind that curtain, who's working overtime to try to convince you to forget your lying eyes and just, obey marching orders. Be good little boys and girls and take it from the economic and political elites who've been throwing you under the bus. The lesser evil doesn't work. We see where it goes, and it's been going there for far too long. The lesser evil is not working. Reject that propaganda of powerlessness. We are not powerless. And this is what Alice Walker said. The biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We have the power. We've got the numbers. We've got the solutions. On day one, the president, if we turn the White House into a greenhouse, on day one, we will pick up the phone and call Bibi Netanyahu and tell him that the war is over, because we actually control him. And that's how Israel's wars have been ended in the past. So the war is over on day one. On day one, AIPAC is also over, because we will instruct the Department of Justice to take AIPAC to court for violating the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Then it's goodbye AIPAC. And it's also 15 years in jail for that violation. So, so much for AIPAC. We also, on that day, declare a climate crisis, a climate emergency. And simply by doing that, we unleash over $500 billion in funding. The president can do this with executive authority. It'll be great to have, a amazing set of congressmen and women and people in the Senate, the folks who represented on this call, for us to be in the halls of power together. But no matter how many we have in Congress, the president herself has the power to to basically provide the dollars that we need in order to create that Green New Deal and let workers lead the way with the green jobs that we need in clean renewable energy, transportation, sustainable agriculture, and sustainable green housing. We have the dollars to jumpstart that. And we can also legalize marijuana, cannabis. We can legalize that also by executive order and help decompress the migration crisis. The migration crisis, which we are driving, and the most important thing we can do to fix the migration crisis is to stop causing it in the first place. So on day one, we will take a major step to decompress that crisis by legalizing cannabis and removing much of the power and wealth from the drug cartels, which eases the violence that's driving so many people across the border. We can also end the sanctions on Nicaragua and Cuba and other countries, which is another source of driving people across the border. We can put an end to the regime change operations, the economic colonialism, like in Haiti, for example, where we overthrew Aristide twice, after which our Department of State under Hillary Clinton went in and reversed the minimum wage law, if you can imagine. The minimum wage law that had raised the minimum wage from 30 cents an hour to 60 cents an hour, Hillary Clinton and company pushed it back down to 30 cents an hour to maximize the profits of the clothing manufacturers, leading, again, intensifying the absolute economic crisis, which is, unfortunately, it's becoming, or it really has become, this is the rule, not the exception around the world. So the U.S. is no longer the dominant empire. We need to get with the program, join the community of adults in the global community in a collaborative, cooperative approach to governing through a multipolar world, not a unipolar world. So I want to leave you with incredible gratitude for providing the momentum that we are seeing right now, like I have never seen before. This standing room only, out the door. And these are events organized with 36 hours notice. People are turning out by the droves. Do not underestimate, the power of our moral vision, the power of people, planet, and peace over profit, and pay no attention to these economic and political predators trying to intimidate you as candidates, trying to extort your vote as voters. They use fear campaigns because they will not talk about the issues. Kamala Harris, who last I saw is now losing just about everywhere in the polls that came out yesterday with the political poll, I think it's called. And I don't know that this is verified by other polls, but there have been a number of suggestions that they've been losing their little bit of edge steadily. And as of yesterday, they were behind 10, 20, and even 30 points in some of the swing states, many of the swing states. So Kamala Harris and the Democrats have no one to blame this on except themselves. They can gain back a lot of votes if they would only stop the genocide. But unfortunately, they care more about continuing the genocide than they do about winning the election. So that is their problem. They're going to have to live with that. And we should not be talked into endorsing their genocide, and we must not be talked into enabling it. Every shot for our campaigns, every vote for our campaigns is a shot across the bow of the empire, telling the empire its days are numbered, and we are here to stay, and we are growing. And a big thank you to everyone for bringing this day. And I hope this is the beginning of a very long and exciting and empowering. Thank you so very much.